The MCU would probably look different today if Spider-Man actor Tom Holland hadn't drunkenly convinced Disney boss Bob Iger in October to reconsider the deal between Sony and Marvel. At first, it doesn't sound that credible, but Holland confirmed this in the late-night talk show with Jimmy Kimmel. There he told that he wouldn't say it was all his achievement, yet with a wink, he's convinced that he saved Spider-Man. But first, back to the beginning. The unbelievable story begins in August of this year, when the 23-year-old Holland advertised the Pixar film Onward at the Disney Fair D23. Not exactly his best day, he says, because around this time it became known that the negotiations between Disney and Sony regarding the future of Spider-Man in the MCU have failed. At the fair, he spoke out in favor of the support of the fans who are supporting Spider-Man, and then even got the email address from Iger and contacted him afterwards. However, the topic was not about Spider-Man, but about the opportunity to thank him for the last 5 years. Bob Iger also seemed to have responded quickly and called Holland shortly afterwards. As Holland tells it, at an inconvenient time for him, since Holland had already had 3 beers and was not quite as sober anymore. In the following telephone conversation, Holland even cried and convinced Iger so far that he was sad to have said that there was a world in the negotiations with Sony where you could do that. The rest is history, because shortly afterwards the turnaround happened and the deal was extended. To what extent Tom Holland actually contributed to this is of course questionable, but it could be that he was the tip of the iceberg for Spider-Man's future in the MCU. The nominations for the Golden Globe Awards 77 have been announced a few days ago. It is no secret that the winners of the Golden Globe also have a significantly higher chance of winning an Oscar at next year's Academy Awards, which is why the film world will be looking curiously at the nominees. Almost everyone knows and many love Game of Thrones, but does the fantasy epic have a chance of winning a prize after winning 12 Emmys in September? Looks rather bad, since the only nomination goes to Jon Snow actor Kit Harington as Best Serious Actor, who has to assert himself against Rami Malek from Mr. Robot and other actors. One of the most important categories is Best Film Drama, in which 1917, The Two Popes, Joker, Marriage Story and The Irishman compete. On the comedy film's musical side, Jojo Rabbit, Knives Out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Rocketman, among others, will compete. In the supporting actors category, the men, Tom Hanks, Anthony Hopkins, Al Pacino, Joe Pesci and Brad Pitt compete for the prize. While the women, Kathy Bates, Annette Bening, Laura Dern, Jennifer Lopez and Margot Robbie won the prize. The last important category is the Best Directing, where John Ho, Sam Mendes, Todd Phillips, Martin Scorsese and Quentin Tarantino compete for the award. Netflix is also represented at the Golden Globes in a rather disproportionate way, because the bottom line is that the streaming giant has 34 nominations. Among the nominees are Noah Baumbach's drama Marriage Story with 6 nominations and Martin Scorsese's The Irishman with 5. The 77th Golden Globe Awards will be presented on January 5th, 2020 in Beverly Hills and hosted by comedian Ricky Gervais. Venom was quite a surprise hit at the box offices, with a box office takings of $850 million. Only the news that the film comes with a low-age rating PG-13 was a little bit disappointing to many fans, because even the main actor Tom Hardy had wished for a much tougher approach. However, this might not be the case with a sequel, because Venom 2 producer Matt Tolmach puts this option in the spotlight in an interview with Cinemablend. A decisive factor for this is the gigantic success of Joker, which could open the door for more brutal superhero movies. He himself finds it absolutely great that R-rated films are now being accepted by a mass audience, which in turn means that there are more opportunities to tell such stories. A confirmation that Venom 2 actually receives a higher age rating than its predecessor, however, he didn't want to be elicited. Nevertheless, fans will be pleased that the option at least exists and is not unlikely. But would that also make sense in terms of content? In any case, with the introduction of the new villain Carnage, who's played by Woody Harrelson, a more brutal approach might make sense. The name alone sounds promising. The shooting of Venom 2 with director Andy Serkis is already underway, which is why a decision regarding brutality, if it hasn't already been made behind the scenes, will be made anytime soon. Venom 2 will be released in US American cinemas on October 2nd, 2020. At the moment, director George Miller is still working on his new movie 3000 Years of Longing, but the next project after that is already fixed, namely Mad Max. In the past, there were some financial problems with this project, so the fifth offshoot of the series was often postponed. However, this now seems to belong to the past because, as the director announced, there was finally an agreement. Miller explains that he's already in the middle of preparation, that the story of Mad Max isn't finished yet, and that another Mad Max part will surely follow. The directors already stated the latter several times in the past, allegedly even the script for the sequel is already finished. However, we have to wait quite some time until the shooting starts, because first of all, the shooting for 3000 Years of Longing is scheduled to start in March next year. It has been known for some time that the third part of the Conjuring series won't be a pure haunted house horror movie. Instead, the two ghost hunters Ed and Lorraine Warren will be confronted with a whole new kind of evil, as the title of the film, which was revealed this week, suggests, because it bears the name The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It. Instead of a ghost house, this time the Warrens will take care of a little boy's soul. The story, which will push the self-proclaimed demonologists to their limits, is again based on true events and deals with the first case in the history of American justice in which a murder suspect wants to claim demon possession as a defense ground. Concluding words are given by leading actor Patrick Wilson, who told in an interview with a Hollywood Reporter that the movie still has the same framework. It's still Ed and Lorraine. Again, they will push their characters to places they haven't gone yet. But the movie will be a really nice addition because it's definitely a completely different monster. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It will be released on September 11th, 2020 in US cinemas.